Hello, welcome. Today we are going to be starting React.js. React is the front end library that we're going to be using to build our front end. You remember when we are doing our projects in Node.js, we used Angular, but React is very popular and we're going to be using it. We can use React to build a single page application. So this is the official website of React, reactjs.org. Now, why are we going to be using React? React is built and maintained by Facebook. Facebook is actively maintaining and using it. Also, other big companies like eBay, New York Times, and Pinterest, all of them use React. So if you look at this, you see React makes it painless to create interactive UIs, that's user interfaces. So you can use React to create interactive UIs that are very powerful, and that is why we're going to be using React. So I hope you're excited. React is a JavaScript library for creating user interface. It seeks to make complex web applications less time consuming to build, easier to maintain, and more performant. It's one of the most popular JavaScript frameworks that we have and use today. You know, the other ones are Angular and Vue, and there are other ones, but React is very powerful. React also has a huge and active worldwide community and support from Facebook, making it a reliable choice for developers wondering where to invest their time. So you see, Facebook is actively working on React, and that's why we are using it, because we believe that it will always improve. So what are the key concepts that we are supposed to understand? We are supposed to know the fact that you can use React to build a single page application. So when we talk about JavaScript apps, we usually talk about SPA, single page applications. The acronym refers to websites that handle navigation in page without loading new pages via HTTP. An SPA website usually loads once, and after that manages all links and form submissions with JavaScript through IaaS requests in the background. Now, changes to the page and even URL address updates are handled by JavaScript as well. So in using React, you look at, there's what we call virtual DOM, and this is the concept that we use for SPAs, that's our single page applications. Now, the virtual DOM is a JavaScript object that describes the current state of your application's web page in the simplest way possible. So that's what the virtual DOM does. It dictates the current state of your application. So there is of course another JavaScript object that already describes the state of the web page, which is the document object model, or the DOM. So the DOM already describes the state of the web page, but the current state of your web application or web page is described by the virtual DOM. So what React does is that it reacts, the normal DOM reacts to the changes that are making in the virtual DOM, so as the page updates. So the actual DOM, the browser's representation, the actual DOM is the browser's representation of the web page and serves many uses. It is also a very large object and very costly to interact with. So you now have the virtual DOM. On the other hand, it's your application representation of the web page, and it's much smaller and less costly to update. So you now update the virtual DOM mostly, then at some point in time the virtual DOM now updates the real DOM, or the real DOM reacts to update from the virtual DOM. So that's what happens. So the virtual DOM allows the framework to keep track of its own idea of what the page should look like, and to compare that with the previous state of application without incurring all the overhead of constantly modifying and reading the browser's actual DOM object. This turned out to be the great performance, and some versions of this approach has been adopted by many other JavaScript frameworks aside React. Now, for you to understand React, you need to understand the concepts of components, web components, and modularity. In React and most other JavaScript frameworks today, instead of writing web pages as one long page of nested HTML elements, We define components that encapsulate blocks of functionalities and design. They can be as small as or as large as you like, but as with functions in JavaScript, where organized code produces components that are relatively easy to read and understand. So use functions to create these components that do similar things. So we have plenty components coming together to form the web page. Now we also have what we call web components. Browsers are moving towards adopting a different but related concept called web components. These are reusable page elements that encapsulate pieces of functionalities, such as search inputs that offers live previews of search results, or a button that shows a tooltip on hover. So that's what page components are. Web components allow you to build complex functionalities into a custom HTML element that you can share and reuse on any web page without worrying about whether it is compatible with other JavaScript components libraries on the page. So web components are a native web technology and are distinct from React components, so make sure you know that. Now the concept of modularity is also very important. React is not a full-featured JavaScript framework. Very important that you know that. Its job is to manage elements on the web page and make sure that they redirect your data correctly. It leaves it up to the programmer to decide how to handle communications with the server. The fact that React is modular in this way means that it can be used in many different contexts to solve problems with rendering performance and code organization. In fact, the React community has developed a number of solutions like Flux and Rails to complete your application architecture. So very, very important. You need to know that. This modularity also means that developers have many other choices to make around developing a front-end application beyond just, well, we just use React. There are different architectures, libraries, and toolchains that make up a React app environment. And many of these configurations have their own resource and community. It's a very innovative ecosystem, but there's a lot to take in. So these are some of the things that are in our open classroom. I'm trying to summarize them in a way that you understand. As a result, in our course, in this React course, React will be focusing on React as a standalone UI library. We use build tools like Create React App. I'm going to be showing us how to do that. That abstracts away most of the tool chain choices for you. Just be aware that React is often paired with the libraries such as Flux or Rails in practice. So if we have time, we'll also go into Rails. Now, HTML in JavaScript and JSX. Very, very important for us to understand these two. HTML was originally designed as a tool for creating mostly static documents that users could browse on the World Wide Web. In the early days, JavaScript was useful for enhancing these pages with simple interactive elements like drop-down menus. JavaScript was about manipulating a document whose main definition was HTML. The JavaScript on today's web has become increasingly complex, though to the point where we often are not sure whether to look to the HTML or the JavaScript to understand the document. This kind of JavaScript is full of snippets of code identifying places in the HTML document by selectors and often building a new elements to insert into the HTML, and wherein there is the original source document, or modifying the original document in other ways. So it's important that we understand that front-end frameworks solve this problem by turning the relationship around and defining HTML inside JavaScript. So that's what they do. They define HTML inside JavaScript. They avoid selector group by organizing the rendering logic in consistent reproducible form that is easy to read and reason about. Now, each framework has a slightly different way of handling HTML in JavaScript. These approaches are often templating languages. They are often called templating languages. Most frameworks separate JavaScript from HTML, defining templates in separate files. But React uses a templates language called JXX. So React actually uses a templating language called JXX, which literally combines JavaScript, HTML, and JavaScript into a single file. This means that often in React, you will be writing code in JXX rather than strict JavaScript. Don't worry though, it is really just an augmented form of JavaScript, and everything you learn about JavaScript will still apply here. So very, very important. JXX is the templating language for React, and it is a combination of HTML and JavaScript. Take note of that. Now, JavaScript framework and delayed rendering. That's the last concept we are going to be looking at. The client-side rendering that single-page application do means delayed rendering. So it renders in a delayed form, and delivering more JavaScript to the client. This is a limitation that all JavaScript frameworks have, although it is ideally mitigated by faster interaction after the page has loaded. So after the initial loading, there is faster interaction, but the initial loading is delayed in JavaScript frameworks. Now, since these kind of web apps don't serve their main content directly as HTML, there is a delay after the initial HTML page is loaded before JavaScript renders the application. Now, on mobile devices especially, this can be a long delay, as the framework often has a large library to download in addition to the app code that the developer writes themselves. Now, frameworks are increasingly working around the problem by creating server-side rendering engines in Node.js that can pre-render the app in static HTML so that the browser has HTML to read immediately on page load. So React, Amber, and Angular 2 communities are all developing versions of this technology. So now that you have some background on key React concepts, let's take a look at how to build our first React app. So we're going to be using Create React App, and we're going to be creating a project that will follow through to go through all these. So welcome to our React class. Like I said, this is the official website of React. It's declarative, it is component based, and React is actually learn once, write anywhere. You can use it to build a single page application, a single component. This is how it looks. You can use class or function. This is a class. Hello method extends React components. This is a single component. You have the render and the React DOM render. This is a stateful component. This is how you give a stateful component using this constructor and set state. This is a full application having constructor and the render method. Then you have a component using external plugin. This is an example of that. So you can always check on their website to see a review of how React works. So in subsequent classes, we are going to start building a React app. Thank you.